Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're going to be talking about the show Hawkeye. Fun fact, Hailee Steinfeld, who plays Kate in this show, had two other shows come out in the same month as Hawkeye, Dickinson and Arcane, so you can tell that she keeps herself busy. This show came out in 2021 and stars Hailee Steinfeld, Jeremy Renner, and Vera Farmiga, and was created by Jonathan Igla. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. Hawkeye sees Clint Barton thrust back into the superhero life after someone is seen in his Ronin suit, which shouldn't have been accessible to anyone. He meets Kate Bishop, who idolizes him and took the suit to stop some goons from the tracksuit mafia. The mafia starts hunting them down, and Clint must partner with Kate, even though he's against it, so he can defeat them. Will Clint defeat them in time to make it home for Christmas, or will a more powerful villain emerge and complicate things? Hawkeye is an action show with some pleasant surprises. If you like Arrow, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, or Smallville, then you should check this show out. Please subscribe down below. Thank you. This show introduces us to Kate Bishop, played by Hailee Steinfeld, and she kills it in this role. I love how she comes into this show with skills of her own already and starts off annoying Clint, who is stuck with her, but then later becomes more of like his partner. The whole season, I had this feeling that Kate's mom was a real villain. I do think that Jack is not as good as he seems, but I knew that the mom was definitely someone who was hiding something. I hope she comes back because she's a cool character and I love Vera Farmiga. I feel like Maya is a step in the right direction for the MCU because not only is she deaf and an amputee, she is a badass. I love how she doesn't let these things slow her down, but instead has become something that makes her stronger. Maya has her own spin off show coming, which I'm excited to see. I feel like her ending on this show was very anticlimactic, but I'm excited to see her work through her trauma and see if she will become a hero. There's a plot in which Clint is losing his hearing because of all the years of fighting, and I would have loved to see him learn to fight without the hearing aid and how that could benefit him. There was a little scene in which he was fighting Maya, and Maya brings it up. And I felt like they brought it up that one time about him using the hearing aid, and then never brought it up again. Maybe in the future that's something that Maya will help him with, but I thought it was something that was brought up and could have been addressed again, but then it wasn't. I love how with these new Marvel shows we get more comic book accurate outfits, or at least we get to see them for characters who have been in the MCU for a minute. In this show, we see Kate draws what looks like to be Hawkeye's comic book costume, and later on in the show, they get real costumes, which aren't exactly like his comic book costumes, but it's something that kind of resembles it a little bit, especially like the colors that you see in it, and just something that's a little bit more realistic. So I'm glad that we're getting these in these shows and these movies, is that, we're getting these comic book costumes, but also getting some that may be a little bit more realistic than what was in the comic book. So it's kind of like blending kind of like reality with like the comic books. And so we get these cool little outfits. Yelena has become one of my favorite new characters introduced, and I loved her chemistry with Kate, and it was like one of the highlights of this show. I was super stressed that she was actually going to kill Clint, but I was happy that she didn't, and she found out that Natasha and Clint were actually really good friends. I'm really excited to see where Yelena goes from here because at the end of this show, she kind of just leaves and we don't really know what's next for her. But one thing I do know is that you don't want to be her enemy. Speaking of Natasha, I feel like this show handled her death and memory better than any other project I've seen so far. Hearing Clint and Yelena talk about her really made me miss her, which isn't something that I felt since she died. I'm glad that it came up in this show because we now know how important she was to Clint, but we never really got to see how much it affected him after she died. I feel like with each Marvel project, we learn more and more about the blip. This show lets us see the blip from Yelena's perspective and lets us know that the blip was 5 years for people who stayed, but for everyone else who was blipped, it literally felt like 5 seconds. One of the biggest surprises was seeing Kingpin return. This proved that they were keeping the characters from the Marvel shows that were on Netflix, which was exciting because it seemed like they were very up in the air about those characters. Kingpin is one formidable foe, but I love how Kate used her resources to defeat him for the moment, that is. It looks like Maya killed him at the end, but I know in TV and movies, if we don't see a dead body, that person is probably still alive. There had been some speculation that Laura, Clint's wife, had been a part of S.H.I.E.L.D., and this show proved it. It was cool to find that out, but I wonder if that's something that's going to be explored more in either like a future season of Hawkeye or another Marvel show or movie. My favorite part of this show is when we see Clint and Kate finally team up in the final episode. In this moment, Kate proves that she can handle big scale threats, and Clint finally trusts her with the special arrowheads. I think having a skill is one thing, but knowing how to use that skill in a way that is super efficient is something that Kate has learned and we've seen her improve on. I can't wait to see them team up again, and I'm excited to see Clint tutor her more so she can learn more about these different threats that she may be facing. Hawkeye is a fun action show with a Christmas theme. We see the return of some old characters while being introduced to some new ones. I'm interested to see what the future of Kate and Clint are because I feel like they could be an asset in the future. If you haven't seen Hawkeye, I suggest that you watch it. Thank you for watching my video. I would love to hear your thoughts down below in the comments. If you have not subscribed, please do so you can keep up to date with more of my videos. But besides that, everyone stay safe, have fun, and goodbye.